Hello and welcome guys back to a pendulum deck profile. So what have I been doing this week? So with the incoming set of Rise of the Duels that came out about 2 weeks ago at this point, I've been having a lot of fun playing pendulums. I played a lot of like Odd Eyes, like Revolution Dragon, like this. I call this blend pendulum. Just like a blending of a lot of these pendulum archetypes, and I fucking love this deck. And I played it a shit ton. I did it in testing before the set came out. I played it when the set dropped. Had a lot of fun. So I showed up to locals this week, and there's 3 locals this week. The first one happened yesterday. And I kind of wanted to have it like a chill day, just have fun. So I decided to play Fluffles. And there's something I realized. Winning isn't fun in tournaments. Winning is fun in tournaments. If you're playing a deck that's not optimal, especially in my local metagame, which is very competitive, of Adamantispators, Eldritch, all these like really meta strategies, Numeron, Guru, like stuff like this, and so much drag mode, man, so much drag mode. Like if you're playing a deck that's just for fun or a rogue deck, you're not gonna have fun. Like I play a lot with my friends, and that's perfectly fine and acceptable for me to play rogue decks then. But if I'm playing a rogue deck in a tournament and I get fucking smacked, like that's not fun. Like getting absolutely fucking destroyed by like the best decks of the format, like Dinos, Infernoble Knights, like all these fucking insane decks, like it's just not enjoyable, right? Like it's fun to play rogue decks versus other rogue decks, or just have a chill game with your buddies. So I decided like fuck that, I'm going back to pendulums, right? I'm playing pendulums this week, so tomorrow I have another tournament I'm going to that I will be testing this list again in. This is my new updated list and profile. So starting off, we play Triple Abductor. This card is ridiculous. Servant, Jackal, Too Many Master. Nothing's really changed here. If you're not playing these cards in Pendulum deck, I don't think you're really fully abusing how broken these cards are in the Pendulum deck. Obviously, there are decks these don't fit into, but for the most part, I feel like these cards are absolutely insane, and you should be trying to play them if you're playing Pendulum. Next, we play Double Darkworm, 1 gate 0. I cut this card down from 3 to 2. Card's insane, but it's so easily searchable that there's so many different ways you can get into it that honestly 2 is a pretty good number. So it was kind of like at the advice of like multiple deck profiles, and I finally gave in and said, fuck, I'll try it. Turns out it's pretty good. So obviously the 1 gate 0. 3 Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon. This card's not once per turn. It's fucking ridiculous. You can search everything. I'd honestly consider adding Persona Dragon back into the deck just so you have another thing to search with it, so you're not always just searching like double, triple Darkworm. Because now I don't have the 3rd Darkworm anymore. The only other thing I can search is Arc Pendulum, which is good sometimes, but sometimes you draw into it, or sometimes it gets banished off Desires. So I'd like to have multiple options. So Persona Dragon might be coming back into the deck. I'm not sure. For the Magician package, we play the Harmonizing, the Dragon Pit, the Celestial, the Purple Poison, and we play 1 If Dragon. There's a reason these cards are down here at the bottom. I'll explain later. These cards are all great. Purple Poison comes up way too much. Way more than I thought it would. Celestial Magician is just the best Magician. It's just a free +1 of any Pendulum card. It's fucking ridiculous. Play 1 Magician Souls. Card's crazy. It's searchable by Time Star down here in the extra deck, so get into it really easy. You don't really need to play. So for spell cards, we max out on all the best ones. 3 Spell Power, 3 Desires, 3 Pendulum Call, 3 Allure Darkness, 3 Duelist Alliance. All these are great ways. Duelist Alliance searches the Pen Call. Allure is generic draw power. Pot of Desires, generic draw power. Spell Power Mastery searches all your enymion cards. It's fucking fantastic. Like all these cards are great. Since we play spell counters, we play the Into the Void in Upstart. So originally I cut it Into the Void because I didn't like the fact that it was discarding my whole hand. And back in my last deck profile, I was playing Time Pendulum Graph. So I had the option to go for a mid-range game where I set up 1 or 2 negates with played around cards like Dark Ruler No More and fucking Sphere Mode and all these other cards. And Time Pendulum Graph was really great in those instances because it helped you play a grind game when pendulums aren't really known for their grind game. They're known for setting up that unbreakable board, right? But since I cut the card, Into the Void is back in the deck. And the reason why I did that is because a lot of this format, these 1-card engines, just recurs so much advantage for like 0 commitment. I think it's really important that you just set up the unbreakable board and instantly win, because otherwise they're just going to grind you out of the game, and it's really frustrating. So next we play the Spellbook engine. So we play the 1 Blue Boy, we play the 1 Secrets, and the 1 Knowledge. The 1/1/1 is really great here. We don't play Chronograph or any of the extra generic extenders or like Curtain Raiser, things like that. So it's really hard to like get into any link to Curtain Raiser's not even a spellcaster, but it's really hard. Actually, he's a fiend, right? Curtain Raiser. Yeah, he's a fiend. Okay. So we don't really play any of those generic like extenders like Chronograph and the Time Gazer to help us get into the Void package. So 1-1-1 is fine. If we were playing a pure enymion list that had like Jester Confits and all these other extenders, then it would make sense to play more of a like a 2-2 and then 1 line, or even 2-2-2. But we can't really do that because we don't have the extenders. So we either get into the card and normal it, or we somehow make the Crowley pre or post Pendulum Summon if we need to draw into extra like side cards, etc. We play the 1 Terraforming and the 1 Sky Iris. These cards are great. I added them into the deck this time. These were not in the deck last time. These are great for spell counters and they unclog your scales. Like, card's fantastic. What's great about Abductor and Servant in this deck with these cards is that there are times where you can literally scale both of these if you have access to Sky Iris. Because even if you get Ash Blossomed on like your Servant, you can still pop your Servant and scale, or you can pop your Abductor and scale and make room for something else. So this card has amazing synergy, and then of course when you do that you can add Revolution, and then you can pitch Revolution for 500 life points, and then you can add the Dark Worm, which you can pen call away for pluses. The deck is absolutely ridiculous. There's a lot of synergies hidden within here that take a lot of time to think about. There's not a lot of plays here that like you don't normally think about. They can come up and you're like, wow, that's a really great way to play around hand traps that you didn't really think about before. Moving on to the extra deck, we play 2 Slain. I cut this down. This definitely could go back up to 3, but I'm not sure what I would cut. Well, I do know what I would cut, but it would depend on your local metagame, and I'll get to that in a bit. We play 1 Axis Code Talker, a generic OTK machine. Cross Sheep, you gotta play the Cross Sheep Sling combo with Vortex Dragon, it's absolutely mandatory. IP Masquerade, generic. Crowley, Spellcaster, generic. I cut it down to 3 instead of 4 Link 2s. Even though Link 2s are really important in this deck, like I really needed the extra space, and you'll see why when we get over here. Then we have Eyes and Vortex. These cards are generically insane for level 7 decks. Pendulums. There's not much to say here. These cards are ridiculous. Also, this is not a dark monster, which is very important when you play against decks that side super poly. Like if you play against like a Numeron Guru deck or any deck that has extra side space that oftentimes sides super poly, this card is extremely important to make because you do have to keep in mind though that because it's a wind, Appaloosa is also a wind, so you got to keep that in mind because Dragon's also. Nightmare Unicorn, generic link 3. Avermax. So Avermax is a new addition to the deck. The reason why he's here is because it's weird to see Avermax and Axis Code Talker on the same deck, but the reason why he's here because if you play against Infernople and they end on Charles is untargetable, and he's you can't destroy him, right? So there's not a whole lot of options here other than battle, unless you somehow can find a way to play cards like Dinkir. If there are any cards like that I could play in this deck, please let me know. But right now, the only thing I can think of is Avermax. And he is pretty easy to make in this deck because we're playing Pendulum, and we have all these cards that are getting penned out of the extra deck. He's pretty easy to make. Yeah, so you can just swing over the Charles for free by battle, and that's how you out the Charles. Appaloosa, generic. Gates. Time Star Magician searches your magician goals, which can get you into Jackal King, can get you into Mighty Master, all the stuff. Play 1 Big Eye. I don't like playing this card. I absolutely hate this card. It's 100% cuttable, but the reason why it's here is because I never ever want to lose again to the people that play Numeron at my locals that just end on Megaclops because I'm playing Pendulum. Because Pendulum doesn't really have an out to Megaclops, right? So my only out really is making Big Eye. And I fucking hate it because this card's trash. But if your locals has a lot of Numeron players that just rely on that stupid combo, then and just ending on Megaclops, you have to play Big Eye. If you're not seeing a lot of Numeron, you can cut this card. And you can play an extra Selene. I'd 100% approve of that. That's a great idea. Just for me personally, with what I play against at locals, I have to have Big Eye. And then for the last 2, we play the Entis and the Spline. These are great if you're playing against Dragma. Dragma is everywhere at my locals, like I said, so these cards are absolutely mandatory. I don't think Dragma is that good of a deck. Like if you can neg the Dear Servant, then it's really hard for them to do anything and not get OTK'd. But the thing is, like, if your opponent's gonna make you Maximus and make you send cards from your extra deck, you might as well get free advantage. Like, there's no reason to not do it, not play these cards if you're expecting it. You know what I mean? So that's why these cards are in here. Moving on to the side deck, we play 2 Denkos, 1 Pankratops. These cards are absolutely phenomenal against back row decks, and Pankratops is good into literally back row and everything else. So he's a card that you almost side in every game. We play 3 Chalice. This is what you play into Zexal. 3 Dark Ruler No More. This is for your combo decks like Adamancipator and for Noble Knights. Secret Village and Set Rotation. These are great actually into certain decks, especially going first. These are great ways to make sure you don't get Dark Ruler No More. Triple Tactics Talent. This is a 1 of. I think you can maybe bump this up to 2 by cutting the reboot because there's not that many trap decks in the format. The card's really good, but I would never ever ever main this card. I don't know why people main this card. I think it's trash in the main deck. I don't know why people are. So, for whatever you do, if you have this card, don't just flex and put it in the main. It's definitely not good. Side deck card. You could run it in 2 again if you want to cut. And we play 2 imperms and we play 1 reboot. I tried to fit in a couple hand traps. Like I said, and I think in my last profile, I really hate playing hand traps in pendulum decks, but if you play against the hand rip Infernoble, I think it's important that you have the chance to open up a disruption. This card isn't dead if you draw it for your 6th card as well, because it's, you know, obviously activatable. So, the card is really good and can help you out some things, problematic things on board, like even like a VFD or whatever. So that's why it's in here. I don't really get to play against the hand rip version of Infernoble. The Infernobles that I play against are mostly just like synchro, like make an unstructurable board and then pop all your cards on my turn, which is really annoying because it pops my scales. So originally I was siding sphere modes, but I figured for an online profile where a lot of people play against a lot of different things, or you play on Dueling Book and you play against the Infernoble hand rip, I think it's important that you have some sort of disruption. So I did put in the 2 infinite impermanents here. They are changeable depending on your opinion. And then obviously the 1 reboot before. The card's good. You could change this to Tactics Talent if you have a second copy. I currently do not, so I figured I'd run into Altergeist or some cheesy flip deck that I can play this card. So moving on, we're gonna do side decking. I got a lot of requests on how to side deck, and I figured that this would be the best time now than ever. Now that locals are starting to like come back in a lot of places. So the theory in side decking is always, what are your cards that aren't gonna like give you a +1. Like, they're gonna be cards that are normally just gonna go 1 for 1 and just gonna get automatically negated, shit like that, right? Things that aren't that good. So the most important cards usually to side out are Oath Dragon. Like, you don't really need the 5th Magician. The tier is like just like an extra combo piece if you banish something off Desires. So and then sometimes you can recur your Revolution, but that's really only good going first, right? It's like your backup play. So this is definitely cuttable. And then oftentimes they also side these out. This is why these down. These cards really are not good going second. If you're playing like the pure Endymion version, where you play the 2/2/1, it's okay if one of these gets negated. It's not a big deal. Fade out negation and then extend, because that's what Endymion does. It just extends. But this deck doesn't do that. It sets up a big board on its 1 pendulum summon. So these cards really don't do that much. Especially if one gets negated, you now have 2 dead cards in your deck. You're not going to do anything. Because obviously you can't use Knowledge and send a pendulum card and draw 2. So, like, the odds of you being able to resolve this card once this is on is, like, almost 0. Then you'd have to make a Crowley as your link, which I don't know how you'd make that in the first place, and then you'd send it off of Knowledge, but you'd have to hard draw into that, because now that you've already used your Magician of Prophecy and got negated, it probably got, like, Borderless Savage or Destroyed or whatever, and now you don't even have a card, like, I don't know, it's just not good going second. And then another card, so Oath Dragon, these 3, that's already 4, and then normally you want to side around 6 cards, so then you cut the Terraforming and the Sky Iris. Other cuttable cards are 100% Upstart and Into the Void. You also could cut 1 Duelist Alliance and 1 Magician Souls. So these are all cards that you could think about cutting. So I'm going to put it so you can see. These are all cards you can get cutting one second. These are like the non-core parts of the deck, right? Then you decide what you're playing against, right? So if I'm playing against, let's say, I'm playing against a Zexal deck. So the cards that I want to side in 100% are this. And then, and you could also side Imperm if you want to get really, really cheeky, right? So this is 6 cards right here. So we already know the 6 cards we would cut. We have them right here. So 2, 5. You still get extra spell counter cards. Like, you didn't really have to cut. You had to cut 0 cards from your core, and you got a bunch of counters to Zexal, right? Again, you're gonna see a lot of the same cards cut because you want to cut the cards that aren't gonna do enough for you. Let's see. Let's say we're playing against Eldritch, right? Let's say we're playing against Eldritch. So Reboot's good. Tactics is good. Anchor-Tops is okay, but it's not fantastic. But really what we care about is Denko Sekka. These are like the 4 that we care about the most. So easy cuts here would just be the Spellbook package and Oath Dragon. And then we still even get the Skyrise Terraforming. You could also side in these 2. This is mostly to go first, but technically speaking, you could go second. If you can out the Eldritch, then you can drop a Secret Village on the field. They're going to have a really hard time unless they already have the Sanguine. or because a lot of times the Eldritch player will use the Sanguine to get an Eldritch the first time, right? So they set one of the other spell cards, and you activate this, like they have nothing they can. This is also another one you could side in, and then you would back in the deck. Tactics. Playing against Altergeist, it would be the same exact side, by the way. The only difference is you also side into Pankratops. Just don't side in Pankratops and it doesn't really do anything. You can't trade two. So 1 for 1, and it's not even that good. The only thing I could see a reasoning why is because it's level 7. Moving on to Adamantibators. Cards you need to see. These 3 100%. These are absolutely mandatory. Definitely side into Tactics Talent. And especially if they're playing like if they end on like a Herald or whatever, this is a great way to special summon and walk over there. And once you bait out all their negates, Mighty Master pop their whole. Normally that's like the idea is like when you're trying to bait out negates, you're trying to bait out the spell negates so you can master play, and then your Mighty Master can just pop their whole. So yeah, these would probably be the best sides. And that in this situation, you just again you side out the spellbook cards, and then all you need now is 1 card to cut. So you could either cut a Duelist Alliance or you could cut like a Terraforming. Probably be the 2. But we'll just say cut Terraforming. So here's your side. So unless I were playing as a hand rip deck like Infernoble, so this is exactly why I put in the Imperm. So if I'm playing as Infernoble, I 100% am siding in the Imperms. Other than that, the only other things I could see siding in are tops. Now we have 3 cards here. You wouldn't really want to side in Chalice because cards like Charles are untargetable. So what you could do here is you only have 3 right here. You could also side in these. You only have 6, and then this is just gonna be the same shit. It's literally on repeat because you always are gonna cut the cards that just don't do enough in your deck. So you have 2 slots. You're just gonna cut these 2. Very simple. Then you have 2 Imperms, a Pankratops, and 3 Dark Royal. No. Boom. Go. Like side decking is really easy. You just have to decide what cards like aren't that good going. It's the same shit every time. What deck is left? What have I? Did Infernoble. We did Trap decks. We did Zexal. Oh, Dinos. Play against Dinos. So Dinos like ending on that stupid fucking Barrier Stun lock. So these cards are 100% like. You could also side in Tactics if you want to. I would say maybe not because a lot of their disruptions come from the Barrier Statue and then Tyranno. Some of them end on Dolka and sometimes they can end on the Spell Negate. But unless you see this, I probably wouldn't side this card in. I'd probably just focus on these 5. In that scenario, I would just do. Dueling Book is so fucking annoying. Holy shit, this card just disappeared. What else would I cut? Whip Dragon 100%, and I have 1 card to cut. In this scenario, I'd probably cut Duelist Alliance just so I can focus on counters. This matchup, but yeah, these would that way you can get around the Barrier Statue. If there's any other questions you guys have, I'd love to know. Oh, before I forget, again, going first, these are absolutely mandatory to play. Depending on what matchup you're in. Like if you're playing against Dinos, for example, this card is like an absolute auto win because they can't use double Evo Pill or any of those broken cards. If you're ever just siding 2 cards and you're not siding a full 3, and again you're going first, so you can definitely play the spell package. These are the most 2 cuttable cards. Sky Iris and Terraforming. These can sometimes be win more cards, so these cards are definitely cards that you can cut going first. Yeah. That is the deck profile, and that is the siding tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, thank you for recommending me this. I didn't know this many people had these kinds of questions, so if there's anything else you guys need or you guys want from me, things that I can talk about on the channel, then I'd love to just let me know in the comments below. That's the only reason this video exists. If it wasn't for you guys, if it wasn't for the support and the asking of questions, like this video wouldn't even be. I'm not doing this for monetary. I'm not doing this to get a shit ton of views. I'm literally just doing this because I love Pendulum. And I love it when people can take joy in something else that I'm taking joy in. It's something that we can take joy in together. Because there's not a whole lot of people around me in the Central Florida area that I know that play Pendulums. I go to a very big locals. Before the pandemic, obviously, I was going to a locals where we'd have like 50 plus people on Fridays, on the big days, and I would sometimes be like the only person playing any variant of pendulums there. So it's kind of lonely, boys. Like, come on, where's the support for pendulums? So it's really cool that other people are enjoying pendulums and are talking to me online about it. So I hope you guys enjoy the deck. It is difficult. I think this build is easier to play than Pure Endymion, so this is a much easier way to get into pendulums than Pure Endymion. Pure Endymion can feel very like it feels like there's a very high like barrier to entry because of the skill cap that is required to play that deck. So if you wanted to play pendulums and you had never played pendulums before, this is the perfect deck to start with pendulums. It's super easy to play. A lot of its plays are very linear. There's a lot of big brain plays that you can think about when you start getting better with the cards and better with the playstyle, because there's a lot of different routes that you can go for in this deck. But as a baseline level, this deck is much easier to play than Pure Endymion. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy, and thank you so much for all the support.